be you. It doesn't matter what color you are, what type of background you come from, who you like or who you love or who your parents are or what you have or what you don't have. It's you or you, and be proud of that and stand up for that and always just be your authentic self.
Welcome to Sports Mom Rapport, where we support and connect with moms of athletes while sharing helpful advice from each other and some guest experts along the way. This is Tara.
And I'm Destiny. Thank you for joining us as we highlight you incredible moms.
Today is our first Sports Mom Rapport episode since we celebrated our 1-year anniversary. We feel honored to be joined by Tracie Schoenherr, a sports mom to 2 athletes, Savannah and Blake. Savannah is a 6th-year Division I NCAA gymnast and a 2-time SEC champion who effectively uses her platform to bring awareness and acceptance to individuals of diverse backgrounds, such as the LGBTQ community. We anticipate our discussion with Tracie today will be full of wisdom and relatability for our listeners.
Well, we're super excited to have you today.
I'm excited too.
It's such an honor to have you. Tracie Schoenherr. Now, are we saying it right, Schoenherr?
Yep.
Okay.
Schoenherr, like the boy's name Shane, hair on your head, Schoenherr.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Please share a little bit about yourself and if athletics played a role in your childhood, as well as please introduce us to your family.
I grew up in a very small town in Georgia, southeast Georgia, about an hour, 20 minutes inland from the coast. Farm community. Friday nights, the whole town was shut down because everybody was at the football game. The whole town was there. Very, very small town. I grew up playing softball, played all the way through high school. I was also a majorette, twirled a baton Friday nights. So anything that I could do, I was always an outdoorsy type person, very tomboyish, didn't wear a lot of makeup. Loved just being out. I grew up with nothing but boys. I didn't know anything different. My husband went to University of Arizona on a baseball scholarship. So he grew up playing sports, big baseball guy. So when our kids came along, we just assumed that they would follow in our footsteps. And so we put Blake, our son, in baseball. We tried to put Savannah in softball. Neither one of them. Blake lasted longer than Savannah did. I think she made it through maybe 15 minutes, and I don't like this, which was pretty much everything until we found gymnastics. Blake lasted about 1.5 years, but his first love was always motorcycles, and he couldn't get his mind off of that. So they both chose their own routes. The competitiveness that Jerry and I have definitely rolled over into their lives, and I feel like they both got a double dose of being competitive, which has served them good, but sometimes growing up was a little intense.
I love that. Savannah and Blake are your 2 children. Tell us a little bit more about them.
Savannah's 23. She is a 6th-year college gymnastics athlete. Blake is 21. He retired from motocross a couple of years ago, but he also played high school sports. So he kind of had a little bit of a mixture of things because naturally motocross was nothing unless he was going professional, which was, as a little boy, he kind of said that, but as he got older, not so much. He raced for the fun of it. So he did enjoy some high school sports. Yeah, they're both pretty much adults. This is Savannah's last year in gymnastics, and Blake just finished up college with a cybersecurity degree. So he's job hunting right now and trying to get his feet on the ground and into the adult world. And Savannah, because of her athletic eligibility, she's continued with her education. So she is actually graduating this coming August with her 2nd master's in leadership and human development.
Wow.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Super. Thank you for all these introductions. You are obviously a very athletic family with you and Jerry doing so many sports and baseball, having the competitive edge. It's obvious in your kids. What has being a sports mom meant to you?
It teaches you so many different lessons. With the sports that both my children chose, it gives you nerves of steel, for one. There was many years we were like, don't you like swimming or golf? Something that's a little less impact or a little less dangerous, something you can't really die from. I think it really kind of made me where at gymnastics meets, especially when a girl might fall on the beam or have a little mishap. It's funny because the whole crowd would go and gasp, just one big gasp. And I just kind of find myself just sitting there staring. It's not that I'm uncompassionate and I'm not worried. I think it just kind of preps you having all these years of seeing all the different things. Time management, for sure, trying to juggle. The time that both kids started, I still had a career working in corporate America. and Jerry was running the businesses. We have a couple of franchise businesses. So he was going all the time. So trying to juggle getting kids to the various things, schools, daycares, or whatever they were in at the time, practices, holding down a job, taking care of the house, time management for sure. Having kids in sports is ideal. You have to be able to juggle and know when we need to set aside some family time, as well as making sure that we have that time together, but yet giving the kids their freedom to explore the avenues that they're choosing and the love and the interest that they have.
I think that's a really interesting take that you just presented to us, because we talk about time management with the athletes all the time and how it helps
Right.
them, but it also helps the parents.
Yes.
Like, totally true. We need to
Right.
figure things out, figuring out where you're going to spend your time. So definitely time management. And I also like how you mentioned just more of a calm, it preps you watching your kids and you see a lot going on and the
Right.
gasps and all. I found myself, same thing. I don't usually gasp when something
Right.
happens. You just become not numb to it, but
Right. It's not a shock.
it's not as surprising anymore.
Right.
So
Right.
more of a calm. Those are great insights. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I did all the gasping when my kids were younger. When Blake had crashes when he was just starting out racing, I was the first mom running around the track like a crazy woman trying to get to him. It's not that I wasn't there, but you just kind of learn over the years. And same thing with Savannah. She'd fall or kind of go into panic mode. And now you just sit there as they're older. As long as they get up, we're good. I'm not going to worry until somebody tells me I need to worry about something. So you just kind of wait for the signals. And you learn your kids' motions. Every sports mom, expressions on your kids' faces. I can kind of tell by looking at my kids what they're thinking and what they're feeling just by the way they might be even holding their head sometimes. So that gives me signals as to how I need to respond and how I need to react.
Right. The cues. And they feed off of you. So if they see that you're all worried and you're gasping, I realized that early on too, that doesn't help the situation.
Exactly.
I love that you take their cues and look at their body language. And it really speaks to the fact that we know our children so intimately, obviously, as their moms. And that everything that we've been through from birth to adulthood with our children as sports moms, we develop these skills to be able to support them in the way that they need. And I love that you've tapped into that and that you pointed that out. So Tracie, you mentioned that Savannah is a gymnast. This is her 6th year doing collegiate gymnastics. Tell us a little bit about her career and what were some of the challenges that she has faced and how did she grow from them?
This is a long career. We're in year 18 of competing, 20 years of gymnastics. She started at age 4. At a young age, we knew we wanted to put our kids into sports. Maybe not as young as we actually did, but at a young age because they kind of forced us into it. Savannah she could not sit still. She was disruptive in class. We started her in K4 in school because she needed energy outlets, and we were trying everything to get this child to sleep. So at age 4, we tried several different things. We tried dance, we tried soccer, we tried softball, t-ball. We tried a couple different things over a couple of months. And that fall, we just happened to ride by the gymnastics facility in town locally. And I was like, would you like to try gymnastics? Okay, well, I'll try it. And we went in and I had to pull her out, almost drag her out. She had found her love from the day she walked in. Challenges for her, it's been a very long career. And she's been through so many trials and tribulations within her sport. She started out, like I said, at a young age. After about a year, they came to me and said, we think your daughter has talent. We'd like to put her on the team. And as a young gymnastics mom, like any gymnastics mom, I'm sure, that doesn't know the sport, we were like, sure, that gives her an extra night to practice. Okay, great. Yes, more sleep. So perfect. An extra night. And had no idea what we were walking into. And then the next thing I know, we need $300 for a warm up, and we need $300 for a Leo, and we need to buy a bag for $50. Oh, and you have entry fees. And we're like, wait a minute, what? So it all kind of started very innocently for us. And for us, we were just like, we just want her to sleep and let her have something that she enjoys and has fun at. From there, her local coach came to me and said, we think your daughter has talent beyond what this gym can really do. So her journey has been very different from even other gymnasts who have been fortunate enough to be in a town where they had the capability of training at the level that she aspired to be. So we moved a lot, or Savannah and I did. She's been through a lot of different trials, tribulations. She was one of those athletes that was not given the healthy pill. So she's had a lot of injuries and a lot of setbacks throughout her career. From a very young age, at age 6, she came to us and said, if I'm going to be in the Olympics, I have to go to another gym. This gym can't get me to the Olympics. And we're like, what are you talking about? That was the journey. That's where it all started. I remember her coach, Jocelyn, at the time said, your daughter has the potential to go all the way if that's what she wants, but she's got to get to coaches that can train her. So it's like every time she got close to something, there was a setback with an injury. For her, her journey is very different, I think. For Blake, it was all fun and games. In motocross, it's not that he did not have his trials and tribulations. He had a lot of setbacks as well as far as injury. I always said that he was way more talented on a dirt bike than Savannah was in the gym, but it was Savannah's drive and determination that pushed her more forward than Blake, where Blake's a little bit more cautious and a little bit more timid in his sport. But there was nothing that he couldn't do on a dirt bike. He didn't want to come out of school and homeschool. He didn't want the route that Savannah took, coming out of school and homeschooling and having practices all day. Blake truly just loved the sport and wanted to do well at it, and he did, without going to the extent that Savannah had gone to with her sport. I can go into a lot more detail, but I feel like I could sit here for hours talking about all the different things that she has gone through. It was really a lot of the injuries that had a lot of setbacks for her at very pivotal times in her career that ended up crushing dreams, but yet opened up other doors. And she's happy where she is now.
Yes, you mentioned injuries, and Tara and I can both relate to that. I'm sure all sports moms listening can relate to that, because sadly, with athletics comes injuries oftentimes. And I think it's crushing for our children to go through that. But like you said, they can navigate it. And sometimes, even if it occurs at a pivotal moment, it can then kind of springboard them, pun intended, kind of spring them into what's actually going to be the next great thing for them. How would you say that you came alongside them as they dealt with injuries as a sports mom? What did you feel your role was when they had setbacks?
You know, my role has always been just mom. In the gym, there was always at least that one mom that was sitting there trying to coach their daughter from the windows or from the lobby or something. And I'm like, that's not my role. I have too many roles in life. I'm a taxi driver. I'm the cook. I'm the cleaner. I'm the cheerleader. I have way too many roles in my life to take on trying to coach something that I'm really not that versed in anyway. The coaching's up to you, but how you treat my child, that's when I would get involved. Where I stood was I was always just mom. I was there for the comfort. I was there to have the shoulder to cry on. And I was there to kind of bounce off ideas and advice and how to handle things. And I always wanted my children to be able to grow into young adults that were able to contribute to society and be their own individual selves. It was not me going in and talking to the coach, but hey, Savannah, maybe you should say this. Go in and tell your coach this is what you want to do, and this is the reasons why. And you need to give justifications for why you were saying what you're saying. Same thing for Blake on the dirt track. There was a lot of dads who, totally different environment, but coming off the track, if their kid didn't race the way that the dads thought that they should, they were yelling at them and you should have done this and you should have done that. We just agreed as parents that this is the approach that we're going to take. We're going to be parents. We're not going to be coaches. And we're going to allow our kids to learn their sport in their way. And they're going to take it to the level that they want to take it. And when they say they're done, they're done. It was never a forced thing for us. Our motto was, when it's not fun anymore, we find something else that is, because life's too short to be stuck in something that's not fun. Kids who are extremely competitive, they criticize themselves. They didn't need anybody else doing it for them. When Savannah would have a bad meet and she'd come off and she would be upset about something, it's like, well, did you do the best you could at that particular moment? I guess so. I'm like, well, then that's all you can do. If your best was falling off beam or your best was to not hit a vault, whatever the case was, it is what it is. You know, well, I've done that a million times perfect. And I'm like, if that's what the best was at that particular moment, then you have to learn from that and move on. And same thing on the track. There was one time that Blake came off the track. He kind of started coasting towards the finish line because he had such a big lead. And instead of coming over the finish line full throttle like he normally would, he kind of let off a little bit. And the kid right behind him came up and passed him, and he ended up getting second instead of winning. He was so mad at himself, but it was a lesson. We don't give up until we cross the finish line. Whether you're a whole lap ahead or you're a foot ahead, it doesn't matter. We just don't let up. So we've always tried to play that role of just being mom and dad, be there for them, but not coach them. And if you want to call us a coach, it was more like trying to coach them in life lessons and how to handle the sport and how to handle the different adversities that came within their sports rather than trying to do anything other than just be there and be their cheerleader.
You know what I love about what you said, Tracie, is you said, I'm just a mom. And then you went on to share all the ways that you encourage and lift your kids up. You said, I'm just a mom. I'm the taxi driver. I'm the cook. I'm the cleaner. But then you said all the ways that you support them and encourage and lift them up. And I think too often as moms, we belittle that role. Like we think maybe we're not doing enough as a mom. Those are still such important things that we do. And like you said, giving them life lessons, that's so much bigger than just giving ourselves as moms grace to say, I'm just a mom. And my responsibility is to raise them to be responsible, strong, independent adults.
Right.
I love that you shared that with us. Thank you.
And such a valuable role it is. Tracie, listening to you talk about Savannah's journey from way back when, I can relate so much. Wanting them to be happy. And then they have big goals and they just want to keep going.
Right.
Trying to find a place for them to be able to strive for their dreams. I know that you had some switches in gyms and trying to find the right coaching and all. I love hearing how you and Jerry have always played the parent role and let the coaches do the coaching. And I'm sure that the coaches really appreciate that too. We've always felt the same way. That's not our job. But if something is not right in the way that you are treating my child,
correct,
then you can step in and help guide them in how to confront it themselves and take ownership in their own journey.
Right.
You expressed that so beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
Will you tell us about how Savannah has transferred for this 6th year from University of Florida to LSU? Right. I'd love to hear about the factors that influenced this decision. And I know it must have been a very significant one for her. And then how did you end up supporting her through it?
When COVID hit in 2020, NCAA announced the athletes that were involved in that would be eligible for a 5th year. Savannah chose after finishing her senior year at Florida, she was going to take a 5th year. Unfortunately, going into that 5th year season, the morning before the first meet of the season, Savannah broke her foot. She was completely devastated. This was the end because, as you know, with college gymnastics, there's nothing after that. When they're done, they're done. There's no professional leagues and things like that. So unless you're Simone Biles, it just seems to keep going. When college is over, it's over. She's like, this can't be the way that I end my career. So it was a very hard 5th year for her. She took on a new role, and I feel like she embraced it so well. She was on a scooter and she'd still be the first one out on the floor, hopping one-legged to, congratulate her teammates. And we're like, please stop before you break the other foot. She really embraced that role and said, if this is the hand that got dealt to me, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to do what I can. In the back of her mind, she knew that if given the opportunity to redshirt for that year, that she would finish out with a 6th year. So that whole 5th season, when she was sidelined, she knew that she wanted to take that extra year and finish her career on her terms, I guess you can say. But it was just up in the air of how was it going to really play out until the end of the season. When she was granted the 6th year eligibility, she came to that realization that, hey, I've been blessed with this 6th year, and she has 2 degrees from Florida. She graduated after 3 years with her bachelor's, and then she took that 4th and 5th year to do a 2-year master's. So she had both degrees, and she felt like this was an opportunity to have a different experience, to be able to experience a different team or experience a different environment, just have a different experience, even though it's just for a year. It was right around nationals in April that she said, if given the year, I'm going to transfer and I'm going to enter the portal. So as soon as her name ended up in the portal, she said her phone just started blowing up. She had several visits lined up to various schools, and she really went into the process with her mind open to whatever. It was funny because LSU was her first visit in May. She got there and she said that she could not imagine being anywhere else. And she ended up canceling all her other visits and committing to LSU on the spot while she was there on the visit. It was just the team environment, the coaches. I think down deep, she kind of wanted to stay in the SEC, and that was the only SEC school that she had lined a visit up for at the time. And all the other ones were different conferences. Coming from being a part of the SEC for 5 years, I think that played a lot into it. But it truly, she just said, as soon as she stepped foot on campus, All the girls came up and hugged her. It was just that family team environment that she strived for and just felt very at home. So it was a really good experience for her. I know some people going into the portal may not have as good of an experience or may struggle a little bit with it. Thankfully for her, it was a very easy transition. She went into it just very open-minded, not knowing, okay, am I going to choose this school, that school, or see the campuses, see how I fit in with the team. For her, it comes down to that team environment. She's always been very team oriented, even in club gymnastics, when it's pretty much every girl for themselves at gymnastics meets. She was always the smallest girl on her team because she was always the youngest. We told her from a very early age to be humble in everything that you do. There's going to be sometimes that you're on top of the podium and sometimes you're not going to be on top of the podium. Sometimes you might not be on the podium at all. But when you are on top, that you're congratulating every girl that didn't quite make it to the top. And when you're on the bottom of the podium, you're congratulating the girls who are on top of the podium. And she was always very humble in doing that and being proud of what other girls were able to accomplish, even if it was more than her. She's always had that team feeling about her growing up. So for her walking onto the campus, it's all about the team and having that family feel. And that's what LSU gave her from the very beginning. And she said she just couldn't imagine being anywhere else that last year.
That's great. She always seems like she knows what she wants and you support her in it. I love that. I love that. Okay. Do you have any advice for sports mom that are facing a tough decision like that for their athlete children?
From my perspective, it comes down to happiness. Life is short and we never know when our time might come. I try to tell my kids all growing up, let's just be happy. That doesn't mean that life itself is going to be happy from day to day and or minute to minute. We're going to have our ups and downs, but not everybody's storm is the same type of storm. But there's a reason why we go through those storms and we always come out on the other side with a lesson learned. I would support their decisions. Sometimes if I felt like they were kind of moving in the wrong direction as a mom, I'd try to get some little phrases in here and there to push them in a certain direction if I felt like I needed to. But especially as they got older, go with your heart. Go with your gut. Gut feelings are always usually good. Your heart will tell you where you need to be. And most importantly, I've always told my children, pray on a decision before making that final decision, but know what you want going into it. Make a list of things that you're looking for. What do you not want? Especially in gymnastics, she knows how she wants to be coached because she's not always had the best coaching. Especially in this transfer, she knew what she was looking for. When she committed to Florida, it was a little different as well. She was actually a little bit older than when she committed to college at age 13. Seeing the differences at 13, and then she decommitted to that original school at 16 and committed to Florida going into her senior year, and then going into LSU at age 22, very differences. And it's funny to go back and look because at 13, when she committed, it was all about how much food are you going to give me? What do the Leos look like? And do we get shoes? Those were her questions. That was important to her at 13. She had no idea what a college credit was. She had no idea anything about academics when it comes to college. It was all about the food, the shoes, and the Leos. When she committed to Florida going into her senior year, she had a lot more academic questions to ask. So I could see a little bit of maturity in her. But then going into LSU, she went in with her list of questions instead of the list of questions I gave to her to kind of say, here's some things that you might want to ask, advising her in different things. But I think just going in prepared for any parent and any athlete going into any situation, you need to do your research. Be prepared with your list of questions. Be prepared with what's important to me, whether it's the type of degree you're wanting to do, team environment's important. If location is important to you, all those factors, what's the most important things, and kind of weigh in on pros and cons. And I think being prepared for yourself, if you're prepared with questions and prepared with what you know you are wanting to get out of it, then that will make you have a better informed decision, I feel like.
Terrific advice. Be prepared. I like how you mentioned you're prepared for the time being, for what's important to you at that time. It changes over time.
It does.
I'm glad that they changed the timing of when athletes can start talking to coaches. 13, you're going through so much in your life in general. That's just a lot to pile on.
It really is.
Letting them mature is a very good thing. And I'm sure that they appreciate it too, because they're taking such a risk when they used to offer athletes at such a young age. that their mind's going to change, that they might even not be competing in the sport anymore by the time they graduate high school. I'm sure it's like a win-win for everybody. Let these athletes mature and get to know what is important to them.
Exactly.
And I love too that you said your advice for sports moms being to focus on happiness. The college time, whether it's a tough decision in college or even in high school or as an adult, it's just such a small blip in the big span of our lifetime. And so making a decision based off of what do you want, what do you not want, and being able to tap into that happiness factor is just a great way to prioritize the happiness, is what I'm trying to say. Because if you prioritize that in this small portion of time, then you'll look back on it and say, this is why I made that decision. And I'm glad I made that decision.
Yeah, going into college, you got to have something that's going to be easy. And the sport, if they're happy in their sport, that's the easy thing. They have too many other things to face. Trying to learn how to become an adult almost overnight when they had mom that was doing laundry for them and cooking for them. And then all of a sudden they've got to make sure that they feed themselves and that they're getting their laundry done and they're getting to things on time. We're not there reminding them every single second of everything and keeping their schedules straight for them. They have enough to try to maneuver at a young age, trying to learn how to become a young adult without mom being there or dad being there. So the sport needs to be the easy part for them. They have the love, the true love and determination for their sport. That should be the easy part. They have enough hard things to do as it is.
Excellent point. Tracie, switching gears a little bit, it's super admirable how Savannah has used her platform as a gymnast for LGBTQ equality. May you share with us some of the ways that she has made an impact in this area and how you've supported her through it?
Savannah struggled a lot as a teenager, mentally with a lot of different things, with the sport, with the injuries hindering what her dreams were, what her aspirations were for her life, things that she wanted to accomplish. So mentally, all that played a part of it too. As a teenager, I guess, looking back, she told us about the struggles that she had of who she was going to become. And it was a tough decision for her. And when she first came to me and told me that she liked a girl, that was really hard for her. She broke down and I think she cried more than I did. At the end of the day, she's my child and I love her no matter what. That's the support there. She is who she is, and it doesn't change the fact that she's still just my little Savannah. So support comes easy. How she's kind of used that, I was very pleasantly surprised that she has such a huge following, especially young girls, because I did, as a mom, I kind of worried looking up to someone that's different. How's that going to play in, and how would moms take that? Would they want to discourage their young girls from having a role model that was gay? I've been pleasantly surprised that her following actually kind of increased since then, because I think people admired her for being her. And her logo, her slogan is just be authentically who you are. Don't be embarrassed of who you are, because everybody's different. Be proud of who you are. So she uses that platform to be authentically. Her first shirts were savagely authentic or something like that. So that's still the way she looks at things. She has a new initiative now where she has hairpins that she sells. She has a little small business. So she sells hairpins for 4 different causes that are true and dear to her. One of them being LGBTQ community, mental health, eating disorders. She has those and she tries to get that awareness out there to everyone. And I think that just being who she is and staying true to herself shows a lot of character. And I think she has a very infectious personality. Anyone who sits down and talks to her, it's kind of hard sometimes not to like her, because she kind of just forces that because of her personality. I think people just flock to that, and it doesn't matter who she is or who she likes or anything like that. She's just being who she is, and that's what she stands behind. Be you. It doesn't matter what color you are, what type of background you come from, who you like or who you love or who your parents are or what you have or what you don't have. It's you or you, and be proud of that and stand up for that and always just be your authentic self.
I totally love that. And I love her. I agree. She has an infectious personality. It's pretty much impossible not to feel like so much love and greatness when you're around her. And I love that she has such a big following and is bringing awareness. Stay true to yourself. You are who you are. Be proud of it. And we're all here to support you. Love it. And I love all the awareness she's bringing to those different causes. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
I have to say, I can't wait to meet Savannah one day. And hearing you so eloquently describe her journey and how she got to the point of fully accepting being authentically who she is so beautiful. And I can relate to that. My name, Destiny, originated from the fact that my parents back in the 70s, my mom is German Irish, so Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes. My dad is African American. And when they started dating and decided to get married, it's difficult because at that time, and even still now today, there's hurdles that people have to overcome. And I feel like my parents felt it was their destiny to like overcome that nuance of the perception that people may have regarding an interracial marriage and a biracial daughter. And so it's beautiful for me to hear Savannah stepping out into who she is and being proud and confident and being able to say not only the LGBTQ, but other communities to say, this is who we are. There's beauty in it. I love hearing that. I knew that she had her hairpins, but to hear you describe it, it warms my heart because I can relate to that, as can, I'm sure, so many people in so many different areas, eating disorders, mental health awareness, diversity, all of that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if we could look a little bit further into, I know you mentioned that time management was a skill that you felt came along with being a sports mom and was really developed through that role. Can you share with us how you feel that you were able to juggle Savannah's demanding gymnastics schedule with moving around? You mentioned having to move a couple of different times. The responsibility of Blake's motocross, your husband's entrepreneurship and his franchises, and then moving around. How did you manage that?
I look back now and wonder the same question. How? How did we do that? Back then, I remember waking up one morning and saying, okay, I have 1,440 minutes today. Where is each one of those minutes going to go? Because you kind of have to break it down. It's not just, oh, I'll do this in the morning, I'll do this in the afternoon type thing. It was truly like minute 1, minute 2. And that was my motto every morning. I have 1,440 minutes per day. Where do I need to be at each minute? And how do I need to plan that out to make sure that I'm hitting everything? Because it was important that both children knew, even though they had us going in different directions, that they both knew that they had both of our full support. I've never missed a gymnastics meet because of having to take on at least having one parent with each kid. Naturally, with Savannah being in gymnastics and having a daughter, I took the gymnastics kid and my husband, Jerry, took Blake in the motocross route. So there was a lot of times that we had to divide and conquer in order to get both of them to where they needed to be. Jerry's never missed a motocross event and I've never missed a gymnastics event, but yet we both seemed to kind of somehow manage to get to the ones that we could. When Savannah was off, we were all at motocross, and when Blake was off, we were all at gymnastics. I think you just kind of have to break it down, and everybody's different. And I think that's what makes the world go round, and it's what makes the world so exciting. And I wish more people could really just embrace the fact that we don't have to agree. We don't have to be the same, because that's what makes us truly uniquely ourselves. The only thing that every single person in the world has in common is the fact that we have 1,440 minutes per day. That's the only thing that everybody has that's exactly the same. That was just my motto. I spent a lot of time in the car. I spend 8, 9 hours a day in the car just driving back and forth, which is the reason why it gave me a lot of time to figure out how many minutes we have per day and things like that, because I had a lot of thinking time. You just learn to juggle it and realize that you can only do one thing per minute. That was kind of my take on trying to really drill down and break it down. It's not about waking up and saying, here's my to-do list, but here's my planned to-do list. Time management is different for everybody. And that was my take on it, whether it's blocking off an amount of time and just trying to write down your schedule. Jerry always made fun of me that my to-do list had to-do list. For me, I have to write everything down and I have to plan it out, whether it's the night before, the week before. And then just accept the fact that no matter how planned you are and how prepared you are with your time, that something's going to throw a monkey wrench in it and you're going to have to step back and readjust. I'm just a firm believer that everything works out, but you have to not get so frazzled with everything and just accept the fact that life's going to throw you some curveballs and you've got to be able to accept it and still think about how you're going to hit and get on base. Throw a little bit of softball analogy in there.
I'm with you on that. You can plan as much as you want and have your to-do list, but things are going to come in and change up your schedule a bit. How you use your minutes, how you make the most of your time.
Right.
So now that both of your children are grown, describe how your role as a sports mom has shifted. What occupies most of your time and energy nowadays? I know Savannah is still competing in her final year and things will probably be a little more chill, take a different direction next year because you'll be in my shoes as I am with my one daughter. What occupies most of your time and energy nowadays? And are there any hobbies that you've had time to discover or rediscover?
So that's really funny because moving away with Savannah, after we moved her to Atlanta for a couple of years when she was younger, the next move was actually to Maryland. So we went out of state. So Jerry and Blake stayed behind so Blake could stay in the school. He did not want to come out of everything that he knew. When we made the decision to kind of sit down and say, okay, well, Savannah needs to get somewhere. How are we going to do this as a family? I had a lot of anxiety about leaving one child behind. And it's not that I left him behind. I worried a lot about, is he going to resent me one day for not always being there for him? So we laughed and joked about that was a 10-year journey. So I always told you, like, I really hope I like you when I move back home. And he was like, yeah, same, So thank goodness for technology at the time, FaceTime and all that good stuff. There was times that we would switch out. Jerry would go to Maryland and be with Savannah for a little while, and I would come home and be with Blake for a week. So we switched out a good bit. The kids truly consumed every ounce of time. And I always wondered, what am I going to do? When Savannah went off to college and I finally got to move back into my house, which was kind of weird, I cried a lot naturally because I had never been separated from her. I'd call her and she's having the time of her life in college. And, here I am boohoo, and you left me with boys. I don't even have anybody on my side. I'm just with the boys. That was kind of the long route to answer the question. But even Savannah at such a young age, she became the advice giver to me. She was like, well, Mom, you like doing this. Why don't you go do this? It took me a little while. I was like, it's right. It's kind of like I'm getting a little bit of my life back. I can go do things that I enjoy. I still love being outside. I started playing a little tennis here and there. I love houses. So I took on a project. We bought a house. We sold our house in town and moved out to a local lake here, bought a project house, and I gutted it, refinished it. So that has become my passion. So I've done 2 houses now. I've dabbled a little bit in real estate. I'd love just doing anything that I can be outside for. My dogs, I'm a dog lover. Kids accuse me of loving the dogs more than them because I'll talk more about them a lot of times than I will the kids. When I'm away from the house, like, oh, I got to get back to the dogs. And they're like, you don't try to always get back to us that quick. I'm like, I love crossword puzzles. I love things that make me use my brain a little bit. I'll sit and do a puzzle, get outside with the dogs, even if it's just to sit out and either scroll through social media sometimes or read a book or do a puzzle, sitting outside with the dogs, just having that fresh air time. And then anything to do with a house. I have friends that will call me and ask for advice on whether it's pick out paint colors or help them pick out light fixtures or how to rearrange a space. That's a little bit of a passion I have. Long answer to that question.
I love it. It sounds great.
Too.
And I think that you and Destiny have a very similar.
We do. We're kindred spirits.
Love for. She's been helping me out redecorate a little bit in my house. It's great that you've rediscovered yourself a little bit, had a little more time. I can relate to my kids giving me advice now. I do feel like they are just wiser. I do believe every generation seems to keep getting better. And they are wise individuals that can really help us. My kids were doing the same thing. Like, well, you like doing this. It's nice to have people that know you so well that can help guide you.
Right. Exactly.
That's sweet that she's like, Mom, try this, get into that, do this. Yeah, I love it. And I can just picture you sitting outside with your dogs, enjoying the fresh air. Or that's so exciting. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So reflecting on your experiences as a sports mom, what advice ultimately would you offer other parents that are navigating the world of youth sports and supporting their children's athletic dreams?
Again, it just kind of comes back to a passion. You've got to let your kid find their passion no matter what it is. Jerry and I both came from different sports than what our kids actually chose to do. And no matter how much we tried to kind of push them in the same direction, because naturally that was what we knew. And that was what our love was. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be your kids' love. And you've got to let them choose what they want to do. For Blake, I remember Christmas morning. Blake has a birthday December 29th, born right after Christmas. And he was 2, about to turn 3 on Christmas morning. And he had had a really good Christmas with what Santa had brought and everything. And I found that we were getting ready to open up gifts from each other. And he had disappeared. And I found him sitting on the stairs. And I was like, hey, buddy, what's wrong? We're getting ready to open presents. And he was just all down in the dumps. And he was like, well, Santa Claus didn't bring me a motorcycle. So I was like, well, okay, well, I don't think Santa Claus knew that you wanted a motorcycle. Yes, I told him at the mall. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe Santa thinks that you're a little too young, because this was my first time hearing anything about a motorcycle. So this went on.
Because you're not Santa.
Yeah, we weren't Santa, so we didn't know. And so this happened even the next year, right before he was about to turn 4. Same thing at Christmas. He had asked for a motorcycle to Santa, and Santa didn't bring him a motorcycle. And here we were, what is this? So Jerry and I were talking, is like, well, all he ever talks about is motorcycles. And he had the little toy motorcycles that he would make up his own little tracks, and he was pushing them around the house. We had dropped Savannah off at gymnastics one day. He's still in like a booster seat sitting in the back seat. It was a nice fall day. We had the windows down and we were sitting at a red light. He just sat up real straight in his booster seat in the back seat. And he was like, Mama, I smell a motorcycle. I was like, you what? He was like, I smell a motorcycle. And I was like, okay, buddy. Yep. And within 30 seconds, a Harley comes riding up from behind us and pulls up next to us at the red light. That's when it kind of hit us. This kid really does. What's this infatuation with motorcycles? So I think that you have to let your kids choose their passion. And that's the first thing I think a parent should do, making sure that you're not pushing them just in what you know or what your love is. And I think oftentimes that's where I've seen too many parents do that. Then they kind of get involved because it was their sport that, I'm going to coach my kid. I have a nephew that plays baseball, and he's a really good little baseball player. And we hear all the horror stories, in Little League about the daddy coaches. Those kids are the ones that get to play all the time because they're the coach's son. And I feel like that when you push your child, and nothing wrong with that, not down in that at all. And just saying that I feel like when your kid is involved in the same thing that you were involved in, it's hard to separate being a coach and being a parent. I'm actually really glad that our kids chose something that we didn't know anything about. I learned about gymnastics with Savannah. We learned about motocross and motorcycles with Blake because we were forced to start it brand new with them. But we allowed them to find their passion because we knew ultimately if their heart wasn't into it, then they're not going to really give their all. They're not going to give their 100%. And I feel like if you're going to be in sports, we always told our kids to try their hardest, to always give 100%. And there was times that in gymnastics, there was plenty of times I begged Savannah to quit and she wouldn't, because I saw what it was doing to her body. But then there was times that she would come home just so upset because it was such a bad day and make comments about, I'm done. I'm so done with this. My comment to her was, well, we're not going to quit today. Today's a bad day, and we don't quit on bad days. When things are going perfect in the gym and you're hitting every skill and you're happy and you're coming home smiling and you don't love it, then we find something different, because then you're making the right decision because you're leaving on a good note. You're leaving when the sport's great and everything's going perfectly well and you're still not happy, then your time's done. But we don't quit and make a rash decision, because those are decisions that you regret. Is really just follow your heart, follow your passion. But those decisions have to be made when things are good and things are going right and not on the spot. Pushing your child to be the best that they can be, but also making the decisions at the right times.
I really admire that. Again, beautifully put. Obviously, you want everyone to follow their passions. Similar situation to you. I'm glad that our kids chose something that we did not excel in when we were younger, because same thing, just learning with them as you go on. And then you don't have the temptation to be coaching them.
Right.
Then you don't have that discomfort of, do they want me to tell them what I'm thinking? It's just better that way.
It's interesting you're saying that, because my husband was a basketball coach for a long time, played basketball, and we have 3 girls. Everyone was like, oh man, not only did your husband not get a son, because everyone thinks that dad wants a son. He loves having his daughters.
Right.
Literally loves it. I think I wanted a son more than he did. But none of them played basketball. And so people were like, wait, what? Not only do you have all these girls, none of them play basketball either. And now the youngest is dabbling in basketball and is enjoying it. And he helps when he can. But it's an added pressure. Like, gosh, if you did that sport and now your child is playing, there is that added thing of like, oh, my parent really knows this sport. And so I have to be really good. I agree with you. Sometimes it's really refreshing to not have that. And I think my husband would agree, like, oh, now he has one that plays. But for a long time, none of them had any interest in basketball.
Right.
So
sometimes I think I know everything about gymnastics, or I think I know everything about motocross, and then I'll make a comment, and both kids, whichever sport it is, they'll look at me and say, no, Mom, that's not how it is. That's not right. And they have to educate me a little bit, even though I think I know, which I do know more than the general public, I guess. But it is kind of refreshing not to know everything and still be more on the so-called ignorant side of things. It kind of puts me back into just that mom mode of, oh, okay, well, I didn't realize that. And I'm able to just still be mom because I don't get worked up over stuff because I don't really know.
Yeah, good point. Like
Yeah.
ignorance is bliss sometimes.
Yes. Yep.
It's been so awesome talking with you and having you share all of your experiences and knowledge. I know that you are going to be inspirational to so many, and I love hearing all your advice.
Oh, thank you, Tara.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you.
Do you have any social media links that you'd like to share with us?
I do have an Instagram and I do have a Facebook, and it's just my name, Tracie Schoenherr. I'm not too fancy on stuff. The only thing I really post is my kids, my dogs, and my gorgeous view that we are blessed to have. Pretty much just Facebook and Instagram is where you can follow, but don't expect a whole lot other than kids, dogs, and water sports. Thank
you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Appreciate y'all having me.
We're so glad you've joined us today. Thank you for listening. Upcoming episodes and show info can all be found at sportsmomreport.com. If you've enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend. We'd love to hear from you, so please reach out to us with any comments, or if you or someone you know would like to share their story and connect with us.